Hello and welcome to Point of View. I'm delighted to introduce our new product by Mercury Partners Academy. It's out every Thursday and we will select a hot topic. What can be any hotter than rising global debt? And we are delighted to have our regular guest with Professor Brunello Rosa. We already record Macro and the Markets every 2 or 3 weeks. He is an expert as a university professor from top universities in the UK and Italy. He's also the CEO and head of research of Rosa Rubini Associates in London. So Brunello, welcome.
Hi, Marcello. Thank you very much for inviting me again.
So we selected this topic because people, and especially not just young people, but everybody, we hear about rising global debt, or we know what global debt is. But I thought that it would be really important to increase the awareness to people on our everyday life. What does it mean to have debt going up and how this can impact our lives as citizens, as consumers, and so on. So I leave it to you to comment the source and what this slide says, and then we can open a quick debate.
Absolutely. Yeah, this data is absolutely remarkable. It comes from the IIF, which is an important organization, supranational, with based in the US, but with affiliates all over the world, that is monitoring public and private debt. We are talking about here $321 trillion in the first half of 2024. And just to give you an example, global GDP is around 100 trillion, which means that for every $1 produced, there are $3 of debt.
It's huge.
To be repaid. It's huge.
It's huge.
It's like 300% of global, 321% of global GDP. That's way too much. Generally, when there's so much debt in circulation, something is going to happen. Not all this debt can be repaid. So partly will be inflated away, so will be repaid through inflation. Partly will default, so it's not going to be repaid, and so there will be losses imposed on the creditors. So that's why the data is so relevant.
Thank you. Just help me and the students and all the followers and also professionals understand how governments which are running countries have to deal with the increasing budget deficit. What does it mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So this figure of global debt, of course, is a portion by country, and each country has a portion of public and private debt, because here we are also talking about corporate debt, so those of companies. If we focus only on the public debt is the accumulation of successive deficit, which means when governments spend more than they can raise by taxes. So every year the government spends some money for the function of its own structure, plus to pay for essential services, healthcare, transportation, education, and so on. And this is paid by taxes. If taxes are not enough to cover the expenses, then you have a deficit. The accumulation of deficit is the debt that we are talking about. So high deficit, high debt means less ability by government to meet their obligations towards the citizen in terms of paying pensions, offering healthcare, offering free education, transportations, and so on.
So we were, in a way, without revealing our age, we're still very young people, but in a way we were quite lucky, if you say, even if you pursue private education by paying, but we got a lot of services, not for free, but the quality of services which were paid by taxes back in the years, because there was less debt. There was less of an issue of paying for public education, NHS in the UK, the Italian system, the Italian NHS. And so today, really, at least what I'm noticing, living in London, coming to Italy, traveling, we are more and more moving toward a United States model in terms of private. There is more and more to pay also for medical expenses, because if you require a quick visit, you'll get it in 6 months, a year, so you have to pay. But at the same time, focusing on Southern Europe and especially Italy, the real wages remain very, very low. So we're moving towards a model which is more of a Western capitalized free market world in a way, so more private services. But at the same time, in certain countries like Italy, we're still linked, unfortunately, to very low real wages. Is this a correct analysis? And how do you think this is gonna evolve?
It's complicated because, yes, real wages are low and nominal wages are also low, so people cannot really afford private education, private healthcare, and so on in the majority of circumstances. So the majority of people still rely on the provision of free services by the state. But when the level of deficit and debt is so high, it becomes harder and harder. So in theory, countries should engage in the reduction of debt over GDP. That's the key measure. And the European Union asks countries to do so. But the best recipe for doing that is increasing growth, because it's very hard to reduce debt. But increased growth also requires investment in education, in productivity, in industrial policies, and so on. And again, there are constraints in doing so. So having allowed that to rise that much is not good news for the global economy.
Sure. And finally, a topic which is personal, because I moved to the UK when I was young after university. You moved to the UK. Training and educating people up to a certain age and then not offering a right environment for a career. I'm not just focusing about Italy. It's not a critic towards Italy, but it's a general theme. You spent a lot of resources writing on this theme from the UK. The burden, not just on society, but also on the economy of the society, is huge, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. We were lucky to be born and raised in a system that pay for most of those services. It is estimated to be around 150,000 euros per person in terms of healthcare and education that is spent from birth to graduation. That's a huge amount of money that is not affordable anymore. And so, unfortunately, the more and more people will be asked to pay for part of that, as you said, moving more towards a US type system.
Perfect. We'll leave it like this. We thank you, Professor Brunello Rosa, who is the CEO of Rosa Robini Associates. We have every week on Thursday point of view on topics like today's global debt topic, which are real and every week comes up. Thank you, Brunello. We'll see you soon. All the best.
Thank you very much, Marcello. Definitely, we'll speak soon.
Bye.